What if you could unlock the secret to thinking faster and talking smarter, just like Elon Musk? Imagine standing on the edge of your dreams, ready to leap, but feeling frozen, your mind clouded by doubt and fear. That's where Emily Carter found herself on a rainy Tuesday afternoon at the Silicon Valley Tech Expo, surrounded by buzzing entrepreneurs and dazzling ideas, yet feeling completely invisible. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She whispered to herself, clutching the crumpled pitch notes that had been her lifeline. The conference hall was packed, voices overlapping in a cacophony of excitement and anxiety. Emily's palms were slick with sweat as she scanned the room, searching for a sign, a spark, something to ignite her stalled career. A week ago, she had faced the worst setback of her life when her startup idea was publicly rejected during an important pitch competition. The memory of the judges' cold expressions and the murmurs from the crowd haunted her every waking moment. Her confidence, once solid and vibrant, had been chipped away, leaving her vulnerable and uncertain. As she navigated the crowd, her thoughts flickered to Elon Musk, the man who seemed to defy impossibility, who spoke with conviction and rapid-fire intelligence, and whose ideas had reshaped entire industries. What if she could tap into even a fraction of his mental agility? Was it a natural gift, or something anyone could learn? She paused beside a sleek booth where a group was gathered around a charismatic man explaining the principles of quick thinking and persuasive communication inspired by Musk's own style. His name was Alex, a well-known coach in Silicon Valley circles. Emily's curiosity overcame her hesitation. She edged closer and caught snippets of Alex's voice. It's not just what you say, it's how fast you can adapt, how clear your mind is under pressure, and how you connect with your audience. Something clicked. This was what she needed. She introduced herself, her voice barely steady. Alex smiled warmly, encouraging her to share her story. As Emily poured out her doubts and fears, Alex listened carefully and then said, "The fastest thinkers aren't born that way. They train their minds, challenge their limits, and learn to speak not just from knowledge but from intuition." Elon Musk's secret? He makes decisions with lightning speed, but he prepares for that speed with relentless practice. Emily felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was her chance to change her narrative. That night, back in her cramped apartment in Palo Alto, surrounded by scattered notes and empty coffee cups, she opened her laptop and began to study Musk's interviews, speeches, and public debates. The words flowed like a river of insight, the way Musk breaks down complex ideas into simple, powerful statements, how he answers tough questions without hesitation, and how he seems to think several steps ahead of everyone else. Emily started practicing aloud, timing her responses, challenging herself to think on her feet. The first attempts were clumsy, her voice shaky and uncertain. But each repetition chipped away at the barrier of fear. The memory of her childhood debate in middle school surfaced, the crushing silence when she froze and lost her voice in front of the whole class. That moment had stayed with her like a scar, a reminder of what she couldn't do. But now, fueled by Alex's encouragement and Musk's example, she began to rewrite that story. In the following days, Emily attended workshops, engaged in impromptu speaking exercises, and even simulated hostile question sessions with Jake, her older brother, who was equal parts tough and supportive. He pushed her hard but believed in her deeply. "You've got this, Em," he said one evening as they practiced late into the night. "You just need to believe it too." Despite the progress, the pressure mounted. Emily's startup was still struggling to secure funding, and the fear of failure gnawed at her relentlessly. Her mother's cautious words echoed in her mind, "Maybe it's time to think about something more stable." That voice of doubt was loud, but Emily was learning to silence it, if only for a moment at a time. One morning, Alex invited Emily to join a small, exclusive roundtable of entrepreneurs who were experimenting with rapid decision-making and communication skills. The invitation felt like a lifeline, an opportunity to test herself in a safe but challenging environment. The room was intimate, filled with ambitious minds who shared their failures and triumphs openly. Emily listened, absorbed, and when her turn came, she found herself speaking with more clarity and confidence than she ever had before. The group nodded, impressed by her insights. She realized that thinking faster wasn't about rushing, it was about training the mind to filter noise and focus on what truly mattered. But just as hope bloomed, reality struck hard. A rival entrepreneur, Melissa, who had long envied Emily's small successes, publicly questioned her credibility at a networking event. The sting of the attack cut deep, rattling her newfound poise. For a moment, the old fear threatened to engulf her. Yet, this time, Emily remembered Alex's words, "Embrace failure. It's the fastest path to growth." Drawing a shaky breath, she responded calmly, turning the confrontation into an opportunity to showcase her resilience. That night, alone with her thoughts, Emily recognized the transformation beginning within her. The journey to think faster and talk smarter was more than a professional skill, it was a personal revolution. She wasn't just learning to speak better, she was learning to believe better. And in that belief lay the power to change everything. What pushed her forward was no longer just hope, but a commitment to herself to keep moving, even when the path was unclear. As the city lights flickered outside her window, Emily whispered, "This is just the beginning." The story of her rise, filled with stumbles, lessons, and breakthroughs, was unfolding. The secret to thinking faster and talking smarter wasn't locked away in some genius mind. It was waiting inside her all along, waiting to be unlocked by courage, practice, and a little bit of Musk-inspired magic. Emily's story did not begin in Silicon Valley or a flashy tech conference but in the modest suburbs of Dayton, Ohio, where she was raised by parents who worked tirelessly to keep the family afloat. Her father, a mechanic, and her mother, a nurse, had big dreams for their kids but little time to nurture Emily's shy and thoughtful nature. From an early age, Emily was known for her sharp mind and curious spirit, always asking questions and devouring books on science and technology, yet she struggled socially. At school, she was quiet, preferring the company of her older brother Jake, whose outgoing personality drew people in effortlessly. Jake was everything Emily was not, confident, quick-witted, and fearless in conversation. While he thrived in debates and presentations, Emily's experiences were often marked by silence and missed chances. One moment that defined her childhood was the fifth-grade state debate championship. Emily had prepared for weeks, memorizing facts and rehearsing her arguments until she could recite them in her sleep. But when the spotlight hit her, the familiar cold wave of panic swept over her. Her mind blanked, her throat tightened, and the words she had so carefully crafted evaporated into a choking silence. The audience's surprised murmurs and her team's disappointed faces haunted her for years. That moment planted a seed of doubt that shadowed her attempts at public speaking, academic challenges, and later, her fledgling career. Still, Emily's intellectual curiosity never dimmed. She excelled academically, earning a scholarship to a respected university in California, where she studied computer science and business. But the confidence to speak her mind, to lead with her voice, remained elusive. Her relationship with Jake was her anchor. Despite their differences, he never let her give up on herself. Late-night phone calls were filled with laughter, encouragement, and sometimes harsh but loving truths. "You have more potential than you know," he told her once. "But you have to let people hear it." Emily's relationship with her mother was more complicated. Her mother's practical worries about financial security often came across as skepticism about Emily's ambitions. "You need a real job," she'd say. "Ideas don't pay the bills." These words stung, yet Emily understood they came from love and fear. Family dinners were often quiet affairs, weighted with unspoken tension about Emily's uncertain future. As Emily navigated her early 20s, she moved to Silicon Valley with a head full of ideas but a heart full of doubts. She worked tirelessly on her startup, a technology that aimed to streamline communication for remote teams, believing that her innovation could change how people connected. But the road was rough. Investors dismissed her pitches, often pointing out her hesitant speaking style and inability to handle tough questions with agility. Each rejection chipped away at her self-esteem. Yet Jake's unwavering support kept her going. "You're not just selling a product," he reminded her. "You're selling a story. Tell it with conviction." Alongside the professional hurdles, Emily faced personal challenges. Past relationships had faltered, often because she struggled to express herself under pressure. Her own internal critic was merciless, replaying every social misstep and public speaking failure like a broken record. The weight of these emotional scars shaped her interactions, making her retreat when she should have advanced. However, the quiet moments of reflection also revealed her strengths, resilience, empathy, and an unyielding desire to grow. When Emily met Alex at the Silicon Valley Tech Expo, she was a woman caught between fear and possibility. Alex's belief in her potential and his introduction to Elon Musk's approach to thinking and communication sparked a new kind of hope. Over the next few months, Emily's days were a whirlwind of study and practice. She immersed herself in Musk's interviews, analyzing how he framed answers with precision and speed, how he navigated criticism, and how he maintained a vision that was both grand and accessible. Emily learned that Musk's brilliance wasn't just in his ideas but in his ability to synthesize information rapidly, anticipate questions, and communicate with clarity even under immense pressure. She adopted techniques to sharpen her mental agility, timed debates, flash exercises to improve quick thinking, and mindfulness practices to calm anxiety. Slowly, the silence that had once defined her speaking moments gave way to tentative, confident words. Her brother Jake became her practice partner and toughest critic, pushing her to embrace imperfection and see failure as a step forward rather than a setback. Yet, progress was not linear. There were days when self-doubt surged stronger than ever, triggered by reminders of past failures and the harsh realities of startup life. Her mother's warnings echoed louder during these moments, threatening to pull her back into the shadows. But Emily was changing. She began to understand that communication wasn't about perfection, it was about connection. Each misstep was a lesson, each challenge a chance to refine her approach. As she grew more comfortable speaking her truth, she also became more attuned to listening, to others, to herself, to the subtle cues that reveal what's truly important. The gradual transformation extended beyond her words. Emily's posture straightened, her gaze steadied, and her laughter grew more frequent. People who once overlooked her began to take notice. At work, her team responded to her clearer direction. At networking events, she held conversations with a newfound ease. One evening, after a long day of preparation for an upcoming pitch, Emily sat with her mother over dinner. The conversation was tentative at first, but Emily found herself opening up about the lessons she was learning, not just about business but about courage and resilience. Her mother listened, her eyes softening with understanding. "I see how hard you're working," she said quietly. "Maybe I was wrong to doubt you." It was a small moment, but it felt monumental to Emily. It was proof that growth was not only internal but could heal old wounds. Emily's journey was far from over, but the foundation was set. A woman who once froze in the spotlight was now steadily reclaiming her voice, guided by the lessons of failure, the strength of family, and the bold example of a man who dared to think faster and talk smarter than anyone else. This backstory laid the groundwork for what was to come, a story of conflict, challenge, and ultimate triumph, all fueled by the relentless drive to change not just a career but a life. The rising conflict in Emily's life began not with a bang but a series of small fractures that quickly grew into a storm threatening to undo all the progress she had made. After months of rigorous practice and personal growth, Emily found herself back at the center of a critical moment, pitching her startup to a panel of investors. The conference room was sleek and intimidating, filled with men and women who had seen countless pitches like hers, many of which had failed before hers. Emily's heart pounded as she took the stage, her notes trembling in her hands. She knew her product had promise, but the stakes were high, and her ability to think fast and speak clearly was about to be tested in the harshest way. The first few minutes went well. Emily presented her vision with a clarity she had never achieved before, her voice steady and filled with purpose. But then came the questions, sharp, skeptical, and relentless. An investor leaned forward, eyes narrowed. How do you plan to handle scalability when your current infrastructure barely supports 10 clients? The question was complex, and Emily felt the familiar tightness creeping into her chest. Her mind raced, searching for an answer. She recalled the exercises with Alex, the quick thinking drills, the focus on breaking problems down simply and confidently. But under the pressure of the moment, words faltered. She stammered, offered vague responses, and felt the energy in the room shift. The investor's expression hardened, and murmurs rippled through the audience. When the session ended, Emily barely escaped the room, swallowed by a wave of shame and frustration. The crushing weight of failure settled over her like a dark cloud. That night, in the solitude of her apartment, the old voices returned with a vengeance. You're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. The memory of her childhood debate disaster was fresh and raw again. But then her phone buzzed. It was Jake. I know it sucked today. But you showed up. That counts for more than you think. Let's talk tomorrow. We'll figure this out. The next morning, Emily met Jake at a small cafe. Over coffee, Jake was both her mirror and her motivator. You're closer than you think. You just need to tweak your approach. Remember what Alex said about clarity and simplicity? Let's drill that. With his encouragement, Emily committed to more intense preparation. She practiced breaking down technical answers into simple, relatable terms. She learned to pause briefly to organize her thoughts instead of rushing. Each day brought small victories and setbacks, but hope was growing alongside the challenges. Then came a harsh reminder that success would not come easily. At a networking event, a rival entrepreneur named Melissa confronted Emily publicly, mocking her earlier failed pitch and calling her out of her league. The humiliation was swift and brutal. Emily's cheeks burned with embarrassment, and the room's atmosphere turned cold. Yet beneath the sting was a spark of defiance. She remembered Alex's mantra, embrace failure. It's your fastest teacher. This encounter ignited a fierce determination within her to prove Melissa wrong, not with anger, but with mastery of her craft. In the weeks that followed, Emily's schedule was relentless. Mornings were dedicated to technical refinement and studying Musk's interviews, afternoons to rehearsing her speaking skills with Alex and Jake, and evenings to networking and absorbing feedback. The pressure tested her resolve, but with every challenge, she learned something new about herself. She discovered that conflict was not an obstacle to avoid but a catalyst for growth. Her mindset shifted, setbacks were experiments, not verdicts, criticism was information, not condemnation. Emily also began to recognize patterns in her communication. She noticed how she often tried to pack too much information into her answers, losing her audience in a maze of details. Inspired by Musk's clarity, she started trimming her language, focusing on key messages and leaving space for impact. Slowly but surely, she became more persuasive, more confident, and more adaptable. Her relationship with Jake deepened as they worked together to overcome emotional hurdles. He challenged her to embrace vulnerability, to speak authentically rather than perfectly. People connect with real, not rehearsed, he told her one night. But just as hope blossomed, new complications arose. Emily's mother, worried about her daughter's increasing stress and uncertain future, voiced her concerns more loudly. Maybe it's time to think about a backup plan, she urged during a tense phone call. The emotional tug-of-war between pursuing passion and seeking security pulled Emily in conflicting directions. At times, the pressure felt overwhelming. She faced sleepless nights, self-doubt spiraling dangerously close to defeat. But Emily's growing inner resilience kept her afloat. She reminded herself that Elon Musk's success was not a story of effortless genius but of persistent struggle and relentless learning. One pivotal moment came when Alex invited Emily to a live panel discussion at a well-known tech summit, a high-profile platform that could change everything. The invitation was a test and a chance to apply everything she had learned. In preparation, Emily threw herself into practice, simulating tough questions, refining her answers, and calming her nerves with mindfulness techniques. On the day of the panel, she felt the familiar surge of adrenaline mixed with determination. The auditorium was packed, lights bright and eyes expectant. When the moderator posed a particularly difficult question, Emily felt the old panic rising. A flashback to that fifth-grade debate moment threatened to freeze her again. But this time, she breathed deeply, recalled her training, and responded with clarity and poise. The audience's reaction was immediate: nods, thoughtful expressions, and even applause. Emily felt a surge of accomplishment but knew the journey was far from over. This rising conflict, the interplay of external challenges and internal battles, was the crucible shaping her transformation. Each failure was a lesson, each tension a stepping stone toward mastery. In these moments, Emily realized that thinking faster and talking smarter was not a destination but an ongoing process of resilience, adaptation, and courage. What pushed her forward was not the absence of fear but the decision to act despite it. The stage was set for even greater challenges, but Emily was no longer the woman who froze in silence. She was becoming a force, shaped by conflict, fueled by hope, and ready to face whatever came next. The climactic journey of Emily's transformation took a dramatic turn the moment she stepped off the stage at that high-profile tech summit. The applause still echoed in her ears, but what came next was an unexpected twist that would push her beyond everything she had prepared for. As she mingled with fellow panelists and attendees, a sudden call on her phone changed the course of her life. It was from a venture capitalist she had long admired, someone known for backing visionary founders but demanding relentless excellence. The message was brief but electrifying: interested in discussing your startup further. Can you meet tomorrow? Emily's heart raced. This was the opportunity she had dreamed of, yet the pressure to perform was now higher than ever. The meeting would be her chance to prove not only the value of her technology but also the growth she had achieved in thinking faster and talking smarter. The night before, sleep eluded her. Her mind oscillated between rehearsing her pitch and wrestling with fears of failure. She visualized every possible question and challenge, trying to prepare answers that would land perfectly. But she knew the key was not memorization but agility, the ability to think on her feet and connect authentically. The next morning, she arrived at the sleek office downtown, a space filled with glass walls and the quiet hum of ambition. The VC, Mr. Reynolds, greeted her with a measured smile and sharp eyes that missed nothing. The conversation began with technical questions: her product's infrastructure, scalability, and security protocols. Emily's voice was steady, her explanations concise and clear, reflecting weeks of intense preparation. But then came the unexpected. Mr. Reynolds asked, "What's your personal motivation behind this startup? Why does it matter to you?" It was a question Emily hadn't rehearsed, a direct challenge to expose more than just data and business plans. For a moment, the old fears threatened to silence her. But drawing on the emotional clarity she had developed, Emily took a breath and spoke from the heart. She told the story of her early struggles with communication, her childhood embarrassment in debates, the moments of doubt and rejection, and how the desire to help people connect better stemmed from her own need to be heard. The room grew quiet. Mr. Reynolds nodded thoughtfully, sensing authenticity behind the polished pitch. The conversation shifted, becoming more of a dialogue than an interrogation. Emily found herself engaging in rapid exchanges, adapting quickly to new angles, addressing concerns with honesty and confidence. When the meeting ended, Mr. Reynolds extended his hand. "You've got something special, Emily. Let's see where this goes." Walking out of the building, Emily felt a surge of exhilaration mixed with disbelief. She had navigated the gauntlet and emerged not only intact but stronger. This meeting was a pivotal step on a journey filled with highs and lows, each shaping her into the leader she was becoming. But the real challenge was just beginning. As news of the potential funding spread, Emily's startup entered a new phase of intense scrutiny and accelerated growth. She faced pressure to scale quickly, manage a growing team, and maintain the clarity of vision that had won support. The rapid pace demanded faster thinking and sharper communication than ever before. Meetings were longer and more complex, negotiations tougher, and media appearances frequent. Each situation was a test of her ability to stay composed under pressure, to adapt her messaging to diverse audiences, and to lead with authenticity and precision. Emily threw herself into the work, drawing strength from the lessons learned and the mentors who guided her. Alex continued to push her boundaries, introducing new exercises to enhance mental flexibility, rapid-fire questioning, scenario improvisations, and storytelling drills designed to deepen emotional connection. She also embraced mindfulness practices, learning to harness stress rather than be overwhelmed by it. The physical environment of Silicon Valley buzzed with energy and relentless ambition, and Emily found inspiration in the stories of others who had faced monumental challenges and persevered. Yet amidst the whirlwind, moments of solitude allowed her to reflect on how far she had come. She recalled Musk's own journey, the relentless drive, the public failures, and the ability to pivot quickly in the face of uncertainty. She recognized that thinking faster and talking smarter was not about perfection but about resilience and continuous adaptation. Alongside professional demands, personal challenges arose. Managing relationships became complicated as her time and emotional energy were stretched thin. Her connection with Jake remained a vital source of support, but even he worried about her burnout. Her mother, now more supportive yet cautious, reminded her to find balance. Emily struggled to reconcile the fast pace with the need for self-care and meaningful connections. But she learned to set boundaries and communicate her needs more effectively, a skill that improved not only her leadership but her well-being. One of the most vivid episodes in this journey was a critical board meeting where tensions flared. The stakes were high, investors were pressing for rapid expansion, while Emily's team urged caution to maintain product quality. Voices rose, and the atmosphere crackled with conflict. Emily felt the familiar adrenaline spike but resisted the urge to react impulsively. Instead, she applied the techniques she had honed, pausing to listen deeply, summarizing key points clearly, and reframing concerns to find common ground. Her calm but assertive communication helped diffuse tension and steer the conversation toward collaborative solutions. The meeting ended with renewed commitment from all parties and a clearer path forward. This experience underscored the power of smart communication, not just to convey ideas but to build trust and foster cooperation. Throughout this intense period, Emily's confidence soared. She no longer saw obstacles as threats but as opportunities to grow and innovate. She embraced a mindset of curiosity and experimentation, unafraid to fail fast and learn faster. The rapid shifts in her environment became a source of excitement rather than anxiety. Yet the journey was not without moments of doubt and fatigue. At times, the relentless pace threatened to overwhelm her. She faced criticism from those who doubted her vision and questioned her ability to lead. But Emily's evolving inner narrative, shaped by resilience, authenticity, and a commitment to growth, provided a steady anchor. She found joy in small victories and stayed connected to her deeper purpose. Looking back, the climactic journey was more than a series of professional milestones. It was a profound transformation of how Emily thought, spoke, and saw herself. The lessons she learned from Elon Musk's approach to rapid thinking and smart communication had become integral to her identity. She realized that the real power was not in mimicking a genius but in cultivating the courage to think independently, speak authentically, and act decisively. As the chapter of rapid growth unfolded, Emily embraced the adventure of leadership, aware that challenges and discoveries awaited at every turn. The path ahead was uncertain but filled with promise. What began as a quest to overcome fear and hesitation had blossomed into a journey of empowerment and impact, one that would inspire not only her but everyone who heard her story. The emotional climax of Emily's journey arrived on a crisp autumn afternoon that began like any other but quickly transformed into a moment of profound revelation and change. It was the day of the final pitch presentation to the Venture Capital Consortium, a panel of seasoned investors whose decision would determine the future of her startup and, in many ways, her career. Emily had prepared relentlessly, rehearsing her presentation until every word felt natural, every answer anticipated. Yet beneath the practiced calm, a storm of emotions churned: excitement, anxiety, hope, and a lingering fear of failure. The conference room was packed, and the atmosphere crackled with intensity. Investors leaned forward, eyes sharp, ready to challenge every claim. Emily took a deep breath, stepping into the spotlight. She began by sharing the story behind her startup, not just the technical details but the emotional core, her struggles with communication, her desire to create a solution that could help others like her. As she spoke, the room softened. Her vulnerability was unexpected and powerful, setting her apart from the usual dry presentations. Then came the Q&A, rapid-fire questions probing the product, the market, the competition, and her team's capabilities. For the first time, Emily felt fully in command. Her responses were quick, clear, and confident, reflecting the mental agility she had worked so hard to develop. She navigated skepticism with grace, addressing concerns directly and honestly. At one point, a senior investor posed a tough challenge about the scalability of her technology under extreme conditions. Emily paused briefly, then outlined a detailed, innovative solution that drew on her team's expertise and recent breakthroughs. The investor nodded appreciatively. The tension in the room shifted from scrutiny to respect. Then, unexpectedly, the lead investor asked, "What will you do if this startup fails? How will you handle setbacks on this journey?" The question cut to the heart of Emily's transformation. Without hesitation, she shared her philosophy shaped by her experiences and the lessons from Elon Musk's approach to resilience: that failure was not an end but a necessary part of innovation, that setbacks were feedback to be analyzed and learned from, and that the real measure of success was persistence and adaptability. Her honesty resonated deeply. The panel's demeanor softened further. When the final question ended, the room was silent for a moment before breaking into applause. Emily felt a surge of relief and accomplishment but also a deep emotional release. Months of struggle, growth, and self-discovery culminated in this moment of recognition and acceptance. The lead investor rose and smiled. "Emily, your vision and courage are inspiring. We believe in you and want to invest." The announcement was met with cheers from her team and supporters watching remotely. Yet, amidst the celebration, Emily knew the journey was far from over. The emotional climax was not just about securing funding but about embracing the truth that had fueled her growth, that vulnerability, courage, and authentic communication were her greatest strengths. In the days that followed, Emily reflected deeply on what this moment meant. She thought about the years of silence and doubt, the times she had wanted to give up, and the people who had believed in her: Jake, Alex, her mother. The victory was theirs as much as hers. But with success came new challenges: the responsibility to lead her team wisely, to scale her vision without losing its heart, and to continue growing as a communicator and thinker. She realized that the emotional climax was a turning point, a doorway to a future where she would face conflicts and triumphs with equal grace. The lessons from her journey became a guiding light. Emily committed to maintaining transparency with her team, fostering a culture where failure was seen as learning, and encouraging open dialogue. She embraced the philosophy that had helped her: to think faster, talk smarter, and act with intention. One night, sitting alone in her office after a long day, Emily wrote a message to her social media followers. What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. The words echoed her own journey, a call to courage and connection. The story that had started with silence and fear was now a beacon for others seeking to find their voice. Emily's transformation was complete not because she had avoided failure but because she had embraced it and grown beyond it. She was no longer the woman who froze in the spotlight but a leader who thought faster, talked smarter, and inspired others to do the same. The emotional climax marked not an end but a profound beginning, a promise that the lessons learned would ripple outward, touching lives and sparking new journeys of courage and growth. And as Emily looked ahead, she knew that life's surprises would continue, but love, for her work, her family, and herself, would always lead the way. The resolution and reflection phase of Emily's journey brought with it a quiet but powerful sense of completion and a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. After the whirlwind of pitches, challenges, and emotional breakthroughs, Emily found herself in a moment of stillness that allowed her to absorb the lessons and see how far she had come. It wasn't just about the startup or the investors anymore, it was about the transformation within her, the way she thought, communicated, and connected. In the weeks following the successful funding, Emily deliberately carved out time to step back from the relentless pace. She traveled to a small cabin by a lake, seeking solitude and clarity. Surrounded by nature's calm, she reflected on the journey from the shy girl who once froze in class to the confident woman who could hold a room's attention with ease and authenticity. The lessons she had learned resonated deeply, that vulnerability was strength, that failure was a necessary step on the path to success, and that clarity and simplicity in communication could open doors not just professionally but in all relationships. She thought about her relationships with Jake and her mother, recognizing how communication had healed old wounds and built new bridges. She reached out to Jake, who joined her for a weekend retreat where they talked openly about their fears, hopes, and dreams. Their connection deepened, rooted now in trust and mutual support. Emily also called her mother, expressing gratitude for her concern and love, and they agreed to be more open with each other moving forward. In this reflective space, Emily understood that her story was not just about business or skills but about love and sacrifice, the love that fueled her persistence and the sacrifices she had made along the way. She realized that true success was measured not by external achievements alone but by the growth of her heart and mind. Inspired by this insight, Emily decided to share her story more widely, hoping to inspire others facing similar struggles. She began writing a blog chronicling her journey, focusing on the emotional highs and lows, the practical strategies, and the philosophical truths she had discovered. The response was overwhelming. Readers connected with her honesty and found encouragement in her resilience. Emily's message was clear: life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. This resolution also marked a shift in how Emily approached her work. She became a leader who prioritized empathy and open communication within her team. She encouraged her employees to embrace mistakes as learning opportunities and fostered a culture of support and innovation. Her ability to think fast and talk smart wasn't just for pitching investors anymore, it became a tool to inspire and empower others. The startup grew steadily, grounded in values that reflected Emily's journey. And while the challenges of scaling a company never ceased, Emily faced them with newfound confidence and grace. She knew setbacks would come, but they no longer held the power to define her. Her story had come full circle, from a place of silence and fear to one of voice and courage. The journey taught her that transformation is not linear but a dynamic process filled with twists, conflicts, and breakthroughs. In quiet moments, Emily often revisited the question that had sparked her first chapter: what if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? She realized that losing everything wasn't a tragedy but an invitation to rebuild with greater wisdom and strength. The story that began as a personal struggle had become a universal message about the human capacity to adapt, communicate, and thrive. As Emily looked toward the future, she felt a deep sense of purpose. She committed to lifelong learning, knowing that thinking faster and talking smarter was a skill to be honed continually. The journey was ongoing, filled with surprises and growth, but armed with love and resilience, Emily was ready to face whatever lay ahead. Her final reflection was simple yet profound: life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. This truth became her guiding light, a reminder that beyond the challenges and triumphs, it is love, for oneself, for others, and for the journey, that makes all the difference. As Emily settled into her new rhythm of leadership and growth, she realized that thinking faster and talking smarter was only the beginning of a lifelong process. The real test came in how she integrated these skills into her daily life, balancing ambition with empathy and strategic thinking with genuine connection. One morning, as she prepared for a critical meeting with potential partners, Emily recalled a lesson from Elon Musk about the importance of clarity and simplicity. Musk often emphasized that the ability to break down complex ideas into understandable terms was what separated great leaders from the rest. Emily practiced this as she rehearsed her pitch, stripping away jargon and focusing on the core message. The meeting itself was a whirlwind of intense negotiation, technical questions, and subtle power plays. Emily noticed how the partners responded not just to her words but to her tone, body language, and confidence. She adapted in real time, sensing when to elaborate and when to pause, when to push and when to listen. This agility in communication became her superpower, allowing her to navigate challenges with grace and effectiveness. Outside of work, Emily nurtured her personal relationships with the same intentionality. She remembered the advice from her mentor Alex: communication is not just about speaking well but about listening deeply. With Jake, she practiced this daily, creating space for honest conversations and mutual support. Their bond strengthened, grounded in empathy and shared dreams. Emily also reconnected with old friends she had lost touch with during the hectic startup phase. These relationships reminded her of her roots and provided a sense of belonging beyond professional success. However, not all moments were smooth. Emily encountered new conflicts that tested her growth. A key team member questioned her decisions, leading to a tense confrontation. Instead of reacting defensively, Emily used the tools she had developed, pausing to understand the concerns, acknowledging emotions, and collaboratively seeking solutions. This approach diffused tension and reinforced a culture of openness. The experience reaffirmed that leadership was as much about emotional intelligence as strategic vision. One evening, after a particularly challenging day, Emily found herself reflecting on the journey with a sense of gratitude and humility. She realized that the process of thinking faster and talking smarter was inseparable from becoming a better listener, a more compassionate leader, and a clearer thinker. She began to journal regularly, documenting insights and moments of growth. This practice deepened her self-awareness and provided a roadmap for continuous improvement. Inspired by Musk's example of relentless curiosity and learning, Emily enrolled in courses on neuroscience and communication, eager to understand the science behind her own transformation. She discovered how stress and anxiety affected cognitive function and how mindfulness techniques could enhance mental agility. These discoveries enriched her toolkit, enabling her to perform under pressure with greater ease. At a company retreat, Emily shared her story with her team, not as a polished success tale but as an honest account of struggles and breakthroughs. Her vulnerability inspired others to open up and share their challenges. Together, they created a culture where innovation thrived not despite difficulties but because of the collective commitment to growth and support. The retreat culminated in a powerful exercise where each team member practiced rapid-fire storytelling, honing their ability to communicate clearly and confidently. Emily watched with pride as her team embodied the principles she had embraced: thinking faster, talking smarter, and leading with heart. Outside the professional sphere, Emily continued to explore how communication shaped human connection. She volunteered at local community centers, helping people improve their public speaking and confidence. These experiences reminded her that the power to think fast and talk smart was not limited to boardrooms but was a vital skill for everyday life, enabling people to express themselves and build meaningful relationships. One poignant moment came when Emily met a young woman struggling with self-doubt and silence, much like her former self. Emily shared her journey candidly, emphasizing that transformation was possible with persistence and the right mindset. The encounter reinforced Emily's commitment to mentoring and sharing her lessons beyond the tech world. As months passed, Emily's reputation grew not only as a savvy entrepreneur but as a compassionate leader and communicator. Media interviews highlighted her unique approach to blending intellect with emotion, strategy with empathy. Yet Emily remained grounded, focused on the ongoing journey rather than the accolades. She knew that every conversation, every decision, was an opportunity to practice and deepen her skills. Reflecting on Elon Musk's influence, Emily appreciated that his greatness was not just in genius ideas but in relentless adaptation, rapid learning, and bold communication. She realized that she did not need to be a visionary billionaire to apply these principles. Anyone could cultivate faster thinking and smarter talking to transform their life. The chapter of reflection and ongoing growth marked a new phase for Emily, one where success was measured by impact and authenticity, where challenges were embraced as growth opportunities, and where love and communication remained at the heart of everything. Looking ahead, Emily felt ready for whatever surprises life would bring, confident that with clarity, courage, and connection, she could navigate any path. The story continued, not as a closed book but as an open invitation to all who wish to think faster, talk smarter, and live more fully. As Emily's startup matured, she faced a new kind of challenge that tested her communication skills and mental agility in unexpected ways. The tech industry, while thrilling, was also ruthless, filled with competition, shifting alliances, and a constant pressure to innovate. One afternoon, Emily received news that a major competitor had launched a product strikingly similar to hers, threatening to undermine months of progress. The initial reaction was shock and frustration, but Emily quickly shifted gears. Instead of reacting impulsively, she called an emergency meeting with her leadership team. The room buzzed with anxiety, yet Emily's calm presence set a different tone. She began by acknowledging the reality of the situation, a move that fostered honesty rather than denial. Then she encouraged brainstorming, inviting everyone to think fast and talk smart, just as she had learned. Ideas flowed, pivots in the product, aggressive marketing campaigns, strategic partnerships. Emily listened carefully, filtering through suggestions and guiding the conversation toward actionable solutions. This approach turned potential panic into productive energy. Over the following weeks, Emily worked relentlessly to steer the company through the crisis. She refined the messaging to emphasize unique features and the authentic story behind her product, connecting emotionally with customers and investors. She sharpened her public speaking, preparing for interviews and panels where she had to defend her vision against tough questions. The pressure was immense, but Emily's training in rapid thinking and clear communication helped her maintain composure. One memorable event was a live Q&A session streamed online, where she faced challenging questions from both supporters and skeptics. Emily used these moments to demonstrate not only product knowledge but transparency and humility, which earned her respect and loyalty. Simultaneously, Emily invested in her team's development, organizing workshops on effective communication and resilience. She believed that a collective ability to think fast and talk smart would be essential for long-term success. The company culture shifted toward openness and adaptability, reflecting Emily's leadership style. Outside the office, Emily's personal life continued to evolve. Jake remained a steadfast partner, providing balance and perspective. Together, they navigated the demands of entrepreneurship while nurturing their relationship through shared adventures and honest conversations. Emily also deepened her mindfulness practice, recognizing that mental clarity was key to sustaining her performance under stress. She often reflected on Elon Musk's ability to manage high-stakes decisions with a combination of rapid cognition and emotional regulation. This inspired her to cultivate the same balance. Despite the setbacks, Emily found renewed motivation in the challenges. She reframed competition not as a threat but as a catalyst for innovation. She embraced a growth mindset, viewing every obstacle as an opportunity to improve both her product and her leadership. Her communication became a tool not only for persuasion but for inspiration and empowerment. As the company regained its momentum, Emily was invited to speak at a prestigious industry conference. The keynote address was an opportunity to share her story and the principles that guided her, the power of quick thinking, authentic communication, and resilience in the face of adversity. Emily prepared meticulously, weaving personal anecdotes with practical insights, aiming to connect deeply with an audience of innovators and entrepreneurs. On stage, she felt the familiar mix of nerves and excitement. But as she spoke, her voice grew steady, her words clear and compelling. She told the story of her early struggles with communication, the breakthroughs inspired by Elon Musk's approach, and the recent battle with competition that tested everything she had learned. The audience responded with enthusiasm, many sharing how her journey resonated with their own experiences. After the speech, Emily was approached by aspiring founders eager to learn from her. She realized that her story had become a source of hope and practical guidance for others navigating uncertainty. This reinforced her commitment to mentorship and continuous growth. One evening, reflecting on the path she had traveled, Emily understood that her ability to think faster and talk smarter had transformed her not just as a professional but as a person. She had learned to embrace vulnerability, to communicate with clarity and heart, and to lead with empathy and courage. The challenges she faced were not roadblocks but stepping stones on a journey of self-discovery and impact. Emily knew that the future would bring new surprises and demands, but she felt ready to meet them with confidence and grace. She returned to her mantra, "Life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way." This truth grounded her in moments of uncertainty and fueled her ongoing journey of transformation and leadership. The rapid growth of Emily's startup brought exciting opportunities but also a wave of new challenges that demanded even sharper thinking and clearer communication. As the company scaled, Emily found herself increasingly involved in high-stakes negotiations, public relations crises, and the delicate balancing act of managing a growing team. One morning, she received a call that set the tone for what would be a defining period in her leadership. The media had picked up a controversial story questioning the ethics of emerging AI technologies, including the kind her company was developing. The news spread quickly on social platforms, sparking heated debates and casting a shadow over the industry. Emily knew this was a critical moment, not just for her company but for the future of technology's role in society. The pressure was intense. She needed to respond swiftly and thoughtfully to reassure stakeholders and the public. Drawing on everything she had learned from Elon Musk's direct and transparent communication style, Emily crafted a statement that was honest, clear, and grounded in her company's commitment to ethical innovation. She addressed concerns head-on, acknowledging the risks while emphasizing the safeguards her team had implemented. Her words struck a balance between technical detail and accessible language, allowing people without a technical background to grasp the issues at stake. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Many praised her candor and leadership, and the company's reputation was preserved. Yet Emily knew the conversation was far from over. She scheduled a live town hall with employees and stakeholders to foster dialogue and listen to concerns. The meeting revealed a spectrum of opinions and emotions: fear, hope, skepticism, and excitement. Emily navigated the session with empathy and clarity, demonstrating the very principles of effective communication she championed: active listening, transparency, and thoughtful responses. This experience deepened her understanding of the power and responsibility of communication in leadership. Around the same time, Emily faced internal challenges. Rapid expansion brought growing pains, team conflicts, resource shortages, and pressure on infrastructure. One significant issue arose when a key engineer resigned unexpectedly, citing burnout and dissatisfaction. Emily recognized the warning signs of a toxic culture emerging in pockets of the company and took immediate action. She launched initiatives to improve employee well-being and foster a more inclusive and supportive environment. Communication again played a central role. Emily encouraged open feedback, held regular check-ins, and led workshops on emotional intelligence and stress management. The efforts helped restore morale and reinforced the company's values. On a personal level, Emily's relationship with Jake continued to provide grounding amid the chaos. They made a pact to prioritize quality time together, nurturing their bond with patience and understanding. Emily realized that the same skills she used professionally, clear communication, empathy, adaptability, were essential in love and friendship. She also deepened her mindfulness practice, integrating meditation and journaling to maintain mental clarity and resilience. Inspired by Musk's emphasis on continuous learning, Emily began exploring emerging research on decision-making and cognitive biases. She studied how rapid thinking could sometimes lead to errors and the importance of balancing speed with reflection. This nuanced understanding enhanced her leadership, helping her make better choices under pressure. A particularly challenging moment came when the board questioned a strategic pivot Emily proposed to keep the company competitive. The debate was intense, with strong opinions on both sides. Emily prepared carefully, presenting data and arguments with precision and passion. She anticipated objections and addressed them calmly, demonstrating both confidence and openness to feedback. Ultimately, the board voted in favor, impressed by her clarity and vision. This victory was a testament to the evolution of Emily's thinking and communication skills, from hesitation to conviction. Throughout this period, Emily never lost sight of the core lesson, that thinking faster and talking smarter were not about winning every argument but about fostering understanding, trust, and collaboration. She kept sharing her story with employees and peers, reminding them that transformation was a journey filled with setbacks and breakthroughs. Her story became a beacon for those striving to improve not just their careers but their lives. As the year drew to a close, Emily took stock of her journey. The challenges had been daunting, but the growth had been profound. She felt a deep gratitude for the mentors, family, and team who supported her and for the hard-won lessons that shaped her. Looking ahead, Emily was more committed than ever to leading with courage, clarity, and compassion. She embraced the ongoing nature of the journey, knowing that each conversation, each decision, was an opportunity to practice and grow. Her story was no longer just her own, it belonged to everyone willing to think faster, talk smarter, and face life's surprises with love. As the company matured, Emily began to appreciate the subtle nuances of influence and persuasion beyond just clear communication. She realized that thinking faster and talking smarter involved not only processing information rapidly and expressing ideas effectively but also understanding human psychology and emotional dynamics deeply. One pivotal moment came during negotiations with a potential major investor who was known for being tough and skeptical. Emily had prepared extensively, anticipating technical questions and financial concerns. Yet, as the meeting unfolded, she sensed that the investor's resistance was rooted not in data but in distrust and personal experience. Instead of doubling down on facts, Emily shifted her approach. She began asking thoughtful questions, listening carefully to the investor's underlying fears and motivations. By reflecting back empathy and acknowledging their perspective, she slowly built rapport. This created a space for genuine dialogue rather than adversarial debate. The investor's demeanor softened, and they started engaging more openly. Emily used this opening to share her vision with passion and authenticity, connecting not just with logic but with emotion. The investor ultimately agreed to a partnership, impressed not only by the business potential but by Emily's emotional intelligence and communication finesse. This experience was a breakthrough. Emily understood that persuasion was as much about connection as it was about content. It wasn't just what she said but how she made others feel heard, valued, and understood. This insight influenced how she led her team, negotiated deals, and built relationships. She encouraged her team to develop not only technical skills but also emotional awareness and interpersonal agility. Workshops on empathy, storytelling, and conflict resolution became regular parts of company culture. Emily also deepened her study of communication theories, including the power of storytelling to create meaning and inspire action. She practiced crafting narratives that linked data to human experience, turning dry facts into compelling visions. One of her favorite exercises was reframing challenges as stories of growth and opportunity, helping her and her team stay motivated through setbacks. Meanwhile, Emily's personal growth continued as well. She attended leadership retreats focused on mindfulness and presence, learning techniques to stay grounded amid chaos. She realized that rapid thinking didn't mean rushing but rather responding with clarity born from calm awareness. These practices enhanced her ability to handle crises and maintain composure in high-pressure situations. Emily's relationship with Jake deepened too, rooted in mutual respect and shared values. They supported each other's growth, celebrated successes, and navigated difficulties together with open communication. Emily found that the skills she honed professionally enriched her personal life, creating a harmonious balance. The company launched a new product line that reflected these values, user-friendly, transparent, and designed to solve real problems with empathy. Emily led the marketing campaign, emphasizing stories of customers whose lives had improved, connecting the technical innovation with human impact. The response was enthusiastic, and the company's brand grew stronger. In reflecting on her journey, Emily often returned to the lessons from Elon Musk, not just his genius but his willingness to challenge norms, learn relentlessly, and communicate boldly. She realized that the ability to think faster and talk smarter was a dynamic skill set that required continuous refinement and courage. As she prepared for the next phase of growth, Emily felt confident that she had built a foundation not only of technical expertise but of emotional intelligence and authentic communication. This combination, she knew, would guide her through whatever surprises and opportunities lay ahead. The chapter of influence and connection marked a deepening of Emily's evolution, from simply thinking fast and talking clearly to inspiring and leading with heart and mind united. Her story was a testament to the transformative power of communication when paired with empathy and courage. As Emily's company expanded globally, the complexity of communication increased exponentially. She quickly learned that thinking faster and talking smarter in a multicultural, multilingual environment demanded new skills and sensitivities. One of her first lessons came during a video conference with international partners based in Japan and Germany. Despite thorough preparation, Emily found herself struggling to bridge cultural communication styles. Where she was used to directness and rapid decision-making, her counterparts valued patience, subtlety, and consensus building. Misunderstandings arose, causing frustration and stalled progress. Recognizing the need to adapt, Emily dove into learning about intercultural communication. She studied differences in body language, tone, and negotiation tactics. She asked her team to provide cultural briefings before meetings and encouraged everyone to practice active listening with heightened awareness. Emily also invested in language coaching and hired cultural liaisons to support smoother interactions. These efforts began to pay off. Gradually, meetings became more productive, and relationships deepened. Emily's ability to think quickly adapted to new rhythms, balancing speed with sensitivity. One particularly challenging negotiation with a Japanese firm required weeks of patient dialogue. Emily learned to appreciate the value of silence, indirect feedback, and nonverbal cues. She modified her communication style to respect these nuances while still advocating firmly for her company's interests. This delicate dance strengthened trust and ultimately led to a successful joint venture. Emily's personal growth mirrored this professional evolution. She reflected on how empathy and curiosity were essential to bridging differences not only in business but in all relationships. She applied these lessons at home with Jake, who came from a different cultural background. Their conversations about values, communication styles, and expectations enriched their bond and helped them navigate challenges. Beyond culture, Emily faced the challenge of scaling her message to a broader audience. She realized that effective communication required tailoring content for diverse groups, from engineers to investors, customers to employees. She refined her ability to switch between high-level vision and granular details, between technical jargon and plain language. This adaptability kept stakeholders engaged and aligned. Emily also embraced new technologies, leveraging multimedia storytelling and interactive platforms to reach wider audiences. She experimented with podcasts, live streams, and social media to share the company's mission and impact authentically. This transparency built community and loyalty, transforming customers into advocates. Throughout this phase, Emily held tightly to the core principles she had learned: clarity, empathy, authenticity, and resilience. She continued to seek feedback, learn from mistakes, and celebrate progress. Challenges still arose: unexpected delays, market shifts, internal conflicts, but Emily faced them with a blend of rapid thinking and thoughtful communication that inspired confidence and collaboration. Reflecting on Elon Musk's example, Emily admired his bold vision and tenacity but also his willingness to adapt and learn from failures. She recognized that true leadership was a balance of decisiveness and humility, speed and reflection, strategy and heart. As she looked toward the future, Emily felt equipped not only to lead a growing global enterprise but to cultivate a culture where diverse voices were heard and valued. Her journey was a testament to the power of communication as a bridge across difference, a tool for connection, and a catalyst for transformation. The chapter of cultural fluency and global leadership marked another step in Emily's evolution, from a fast thinker and smart talker to a truly adaptive and empathetic leader. Her story continued, inspiring all who sought to communicate with clarity, courage, and compassion in an increasingly interconnected world. By the time Emily reached the next phase of her journey, she had become acutely aware of how essential storytelling was to leadership. It wasn't just about conveying facts or answering questions rapidly, it was about weaving narratives that connected, inspired, and mobilized people toward a common vision. One defining moment came when Emily was asked to present at a major tech summit attended by industry veterans, investors, and media. The pressure to impress was immense. Instead of diving into technical jargon or overwhelming the audience with data, Emily decided to tell a story, her story. She began by describing the moment she almost gave up on her startup, the isolation and self-doubt she faced, and how learning to think faster and talk smarter transformed her. She shared vivid details about her early mistakes, the mentors who guided her, and the breakthroughs that propelled her forward. This openness created an emotional connection with the audience. They saw not just a CEO but a relatable human being with struggles and dreams. Emily then linked her personal journey to the broader mission of the company, to create technology that empowers people and solves real problems. She painted a picture of the future she envisioned, inviting listeners to be part of that story. The response was electrifying. Applause erupted, and afterward, attendees approached her, sharing how her story resonated deeply. This experience confirmed for Emily that effective storytelling was a powerful leadership tool. She began integrating stories into every aspect of her work, from investor pitches to team meetings, marketing campaigns to user testimonials. Each story was tailored to the audience but always authentic and emotionally engaging. Emily also studied storytelling techniques from diverse sources, including classic literature, film, and even Elon Musk's candid interviews. She learned how to build suspense, create relatable characters, and deliver satisfying resolutions. Her ability to craft compelling narratives enhanced her influence and helped rally support during challenging times. Internally, Emily encouraged her team to share their own stories. She created forums where employees could talk about their motivations, challenges, and successes. This fostered a sense of belonging and purpose, reinforcing a culture of openness and trust. As Emily's storytelling skills grew, she noticed a shift in how people responded to her. Conversations became more meaningful, collaborations more genuine, and conflicts easier to resolve. Stories had the power to humanize complex issues and bridge divides. On a personal level, Emily's relationship with Jake benefited as well. They shared stories from their day-to-day lives, dreams for the future, and lessons learned from mistakes. This deepened their intimacy and helped them navigate the ups and downs of entrepreneurial life together. One memorable challenge arose when a public controversy threatened the company's reputation. Rather than issuing a sterile statement, Emily crafted a story that acknowledged the mistake, showed accountability, and outlined a path to improvement. This transparent narrative helped rebuild trust with customers and the public. Emily realized that in an era of information overload and skepticism, authentic storytelling cut through noise and built lasting connections. Reflecting on Elon Musk's communication style, Emily admired how he often shared bold visions and personal insights, inviting the public into his journey despite risks. She embraced this openness as a strength rather than a vulnerability. The chapter on storytelling marked a new dimension in Emily's evolution, transforming her from a rapid thinker and articulate speaker into a leader who inspired through narrative. Her journey illustrated that at its heart, communication is about connection. By telling stories with clarity, courage, and compassion, Emily not only advanced her company's mission but also touched lives and sparked new beginnings. She knew the path ahead would have more surprises and challenges, but armed with the power of story, she was ready to lead with authenticity and heart. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough. As Emily's company continued to grow, she became increasingly aware that rapid thinking and smart talking were essential not only in high-stakes public moments but also in the quiet, often overlooked daily interactions that shaped her company's culture. One day, a situation arose that tested this insight profoundly. A conflict erupted between two senior team members over the direction of a product feature. The disagreement threatened to divide the team and slow progress. Emily knew that ignoring the issue would only deepen the rift. Instead, she decided to address it head-on with a meeting designed to foster honest and constructive dialogue. Drawing from her communication toolbox, Emily began by setting clear intentions. The goal was understanding, not winning. She encouraged each person to share their perspective fully while the other listened without interruption. Emily modeled empathy and active listening, asking clarifying questions and reflecting back what she heard to ensure accuracy. As the conversation unfolded, tensions initially ran high, but gradually the team members found common ground. They realized their shared commitment to the company's mission outweighed their differences. Emily guided them toward a compromise that integrated both viewpoints, strengthening the product and the relationship. This moment was a powerful reminder that effective communication requires patience, humility, and skillful facilitation, especially when emotions run deep. Inspired by this success, Emily implemented regular communication check-ins across departments, creating safe spaces for team members to air concerns and resolve conflicts early. She also introduced training sessions on emotional intelligence and constructive feedback, helping her team develop skills essential for collaboration and innovation. Meanwhile, Emily continued refining her own ability to think quickly under pressure. She practiced mental exercises to improve cognitive flexibility and worked with a coach to sharpen her presence in difficult conversations. These efforts paid off when she faced a crisis involving a sudden supply chain disruption threatening a key product launch. Instead of reacting with panic, Emily quickly gathered facts, assessed options, and communicated transparently with customers and partners. Her clear, calm messaging minimized fallout and maintained trust. On the personal front, Emily and Jake navigated the demands of their busy lives with renewed focus on communication. They prioritized check-ins to share feelings, challenges, and aspirations, recognizing that their relationship was a foundation for resilience. Emily also continued exploring mindfulness practices, deepening her awareness of how emotional regulation enhanced her leadership effectiveness. Reflecting on Elon Musk's approach, Emily admired his ability to remain composed in public crises while engaging candidly. She understood that this combination was not innate but cultivated through discipline and self-awareness. This chapter in Emily's story highlighted that leadership communication is as much about managing relationships and emotions as it is about strategy and information. By investing in daily conversations and emotional connection, Emily strengthened her company's culture and capacity for innovation. She knew the journey was ongoing. That every interaction was an opportunity to practice thinking faster and talking smarter with kindness and clarity. Her story was becoming a guide for leaders who sought not only to succeed but to build workplaces where people thrive together. Emily's evolution continued, shaped by challenges, learning, and the unwavering belief that communication, in all its forms, was the heart of transformation. By now, Emily had learned that thinking faster and talking smarter was not only about quick wit or eloquence but also about cultivating resilience, the ability to recover from setbacks and keep moving forward with clarity and purpose. One defining moment came when the company faced an unexpected regulatory hurdle that threatened to delay the launch of their flagship product. The news hit like a thunderclap. Investors were anxious, the media was watching closely, and the team's morale plummeted. Emily knew this was a test of her leadership and communication skills. Instead of reacting defensively, she called an all-hands meeting. With honesty and transparency, she explained the situation, the implications, and the steps the company would take to address it. Her tone was calm but urgent, conveying both the gravity of the challenge and confidence in the team's ability to overcome it. This openness created a sense of shared purpose rather than panic. Emily then held a series of focused strategy sessions with her leadership team. She encouraged rapid problem solving but emphasized the importance of clear communication, documenting decisions, and managing external messaging carefully. Throughout, Emily balanced speed with thoughtful reflection, avoiding knee-jerk reactions while maintaining momentum. At the same time, Emily devoted time to personally supporting team members who were feeling the strain. She listened to their concerns, validated their emotions, and encouraged them to tap into their own resilience. Emily's own practice of mindfulness and journaling became vital tools for managing stress and maintaining perspective. Drawing inspiration from Elon Musk's public resilience, how he faced failures and criticism with grit and renewed vision, Emily reminded herself that setbacks were part of the innovation journey. This mindset helped her lead with empathy and determination. Weeks passed, and through persistent effort and clear communication, the company navigated the regulatory challenge successfully. The product launch was delayed but not derailed, and the company emerged stronger with improved processes and relationships. The experience deepened Emily's appreciation for resilience as a core leadership quality intertwined with communication. She shared these lessons openly, encouraging her team to view difficulties as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. Emily's relationship with Jake also grew stronger through this period of stress and uncertainty. Their open dialogues about fears and hopes reinforced their connection and provided emotional refuge. Emily realized that resilience was as much about connection and support as it was about inner strength. Reflecting on her journey, Emily recognized that the ability to think faster and talk smarter was not about avoiding failure but about responding to it with grace, clarity, and renewed energy. This chapter of resilience marked a pivotal shift, from reactive to proactive leadership, from fear to courage, from isolation to community. Emily's story continued to inspire those who faced life's surprises, reminding them that the path to success was rarely smooth but always worth traveling with heart and clarity. As she looked ahead, Emily felt ready to face whatever challenges lay on the horizon, equipped with the skills and mindset to think faster, talk smarter, and lead with resilience. With resilience now deeply woven into her leadership fabric, Emily turned her focus to innovation. Not just the kind that happens in labs or brainstorming sessions, but innovation in communication itself. She realized that to truly think faster and talk smarter, she needed to harness emerging technologies and rethink how ideas were shared. The catalyst for this new phase came during a strategy retreat, where Emily challenged her team to imagine communication without traditional constraints. Could they leverage artificial intelligence, augmented reality, or other tools to enhance clarity, speed, and impact? Excited by the possibilities, Emily spearheaded the creation of a pilot project using AI-driven language assistants to help team members draft emails, presentations, and even negotiate contracts with more precision and speed. The tool offered real-time suggestions on tone, word choice, and structure, reducing misunderstandings and improving efficiency. Early feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with employees reporting they felt more confident and less stressed. Simultaneously, Emily explored immersive technologies like AR to create virtual meeting spaces that mimicked face-to-face interactions, capturing subtle nonverbal cues often lost in video calls. These virtual environments fostered deeper connection and creativity, especially among remote teams. Emily was fascinated by how technology could augment human communication rather than replace it. She kept a close eye on Elon Musk's ventures, noting how Tesla and SpaceX used advanced simulations and AI to solve complex problems and communicate vision. Inspired, Emily encouraged cross-department collaboration to integrate these innovations into their workflows and culture. The company also launched a new internal podcast series where leaders and employees shared stories of challenges and successes, fostering transparency and learning. Emily's ability to adapt quickly to technological change and integrate it into her communication toolkit reinforced her position as a forward-thinking leader. On a personal level, Emily balanced these advances with mindful presence, ensuring technology enhanced rather than distracted from genuine connection. Her relationship with Jake included tech-free time and deliberate conversations, keeping their bond strong amid rapid change. Reflecting on this chapter, Emily saw that thinking faster and talking smarter was an evolving journey, propelled by curiosity, experimentation, and openness to change. Technology was a powerful ally, but the human element, the empathy, authenticity, and courage, remained paramount. As the company embraced these innovations, it continued to thrive, pushing boundaries while staying grounded in its mission. Emily's story became a beacon for leaders navigating the intersection of technology and humanity, showing that the smartest communication combines speed, clarity, and heart in equal measure. This chapter marked a bold leap forward, blending cutting-edge tools with timeless principles, preparing Emily and her team to meet the future with confidence and creativity. As Emily's company continued to push boundaries with technological innovation, she realized that the core of thinking faster and talking smarter wasn't solely about speed or clarity but also about fostering genuine trust, both within her team and with the outside world. This revelation became crystal clear during a crisis that unexpectedly tested every ounce of credibility they had built. A data breach compromised sensitive customer information, sparking outrage and fear. News outlets were quick to pick up the story, and social media buzzed with concern and criticism. Emily knew this was a critical moment where rapid, transparent communication could either salvage or shatter the company's reputation. Immediately, Emily assembled her crisis response team. Drawing from her years of experience and lessons from Elon Musk's public candor during Tesla's early struggles, she crafted a communication plan centered on honesty and accountability. Emily herself recorded a heartfelt video message acknowledging the breach, explaining what happened, what was being done to fix it, and most importantly, how the company would prevent future incidents. Her tone was sincere, unflinching, and reassuring. Internally, Emily held meetings to keep employees informed, encouraging questions and open dialogue to combat rumors and fear. She emphasized that the company's strength lay in unity and transparency. Externally, the company launched a dedicated support line for affected customers and partnered with cybersecurity experts to audit systems and enhance security. The response was swift and visible, showing commitment beyond mere words. This approach gradually restored trust among customers and investors. Emily noticed that when people felt seen and heard, even difficult truths became more palatable. The episode deepened Emily's understanding that rapid communication must be coupled with authenticity and responsibility to build lasting relationships. She also learned the importance of preparing for crises before they happened, developing communication protocols, training spokespeople, and fostering a culture where concerns could be raised early. On a personal level, Emily leaned on Jake and close mentors for support during this turbulent time. Their steady presence reminded her that resilience included asking for help and practicing self-care. Reflecting on Elon Musk's bold public persona, Emily appreciated how his willingness to face criticism head-on helped humanize his companies and inspire loyalty. She embraced this model while adapting it with her own empathetic style. This chapter in Emily's story underscored that thinking faster and talking smarter wasn't just about seizing opportunities but also about navigating challenges with integrity and courage. Through this crisis, Emily strengthened her leadership and deepened her commitment to transparent, trustworthy communication. Her journey became a powerful example for others facing the inevitable ups and downs of innovation and growth, proving that with honesty and heart, even the hardest moments could become catalysts for deeper connection and renewed purpose. Following the data breach crisis, Emily realized that while transparent communication was critical during emergencies, proactive communication was equally vital to sustain momentum and inspire innovation. She set out to cultivate a culture of continuous dialogue and knowledge sharing across her growing company. One initiative she launched was a weekly Spark meeting, an informal forum where employees at all levels shared ideas, challenges, and successes. The goal was to break down silos, encourage curiosity, and accelerate problem-solving. Emily often kicked off these sessions by posing provocative questions like, "What if we could reimagine our product to serve not just customers but entire communities?" Or, "How can we think faster when faced with unexpected obstacles?" These questions sparked lively discussions and fresh perspectives. She also emphasized the value of listening, truly hearing the voices of frontline workers, engineers, marketers, and customer service reps. Emily believed that great ideas could come from anywhere, and by creating a safe space for open communication, the company could harness collective intelligence. This approach aligned with the lessons she'd gleaned from Elon Musk's hands-on management style, where deep involvement and relentless questioning pushed teams toward breakthroughs. To support this culture, Emily introduced collaborative digital platforms where teams could exchange feedback and experiment with rapid prototyping. The tools allowed for real-time iteration and transparent documentation, speeding up decision-making. She also instituted a fail-forward mindset, encouraging employees to view mistakes as learning opportunities rather than setbacks. Celebrating small wins and thoughtful risks energized the team and built resilience. On a personal level, Emily found that her own thinking became more agile. Engaging with diverse viewpoints challenged assumptions and broadened her problem-solving toolkit. She balanced rapid-fire brainstorming with moments of quiet reflection, ensuring that speed did not sacrifice depth. Her conversations with Jake also grew richer, as they shared insights from their work and debated big ideas late into the night. This dynamic deepened their partnership and fueled Emily's creative energy. Emily's storytelling evolved as well, weaving narratives not only about company achievements but about the process, the challenges, failures, and collaborative spirit that made success possible. These stories humanized the brand and inspired loyalty among customers and employees alike. As the company rolled out new products informed by this culture of continuous dialogue, it gained market traction and positive reviews. Industry peers took notice of the company's innovative approach to communication and leadership. Reflecting on this chapter of her journey, Emily saw that thinking faster and talking smarter was not a solo endeavor but a collective practice, one that thrived on openness, trust, and shared purpose. By nurturing a culture where every voice mattered, she unlocked the full potential of her team and accelerated the company's growth. Emily's story became a blueprint for leaders seeking to build agile, innovative organizations in a fast-changing world. As she prepared for the next stage, Emily felt confident that with continuous dialogue and fearless curiosity, her company could meet whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. As Emily's company thrived on continuous dialogue and collaborative innovation, she realized another crucial dimension to thinking faster and talking smarter: the power of persuasion. It wasn't enough to generate ideas quickly or communicate clearly, she needed to inspire action, influence decisions, and rally support. This awareness deepened when Emily faced a high-stakes investor meeting that could determine the company's future funding. The room was filled with seasoned venture capitalists, skeptics, and cautious advisors. Emily knew that her rapid thinking and articulate speech would be tested in real time, under intense scrutiny. Before the meeting, she meticulously prepared by anticipating tough questions, rehearsing concise yet compelling answers, and crafting a narrative that linked the company's vision to market trends and financial opportunity. She focused on aligning logic with emotion, data with storytelling. During the pitch, Emily employed techniques she had studied from master persuaders, including Elon Musk's compelling presentations. She opened with a bold vision that captured imagination, then layered incredible evidence, testimonials, and a clear roadmap. Her tone balanced confidence with humility, projecting authenticity. When difficult questions arose, Emily listened carefully, acknowledged concerns without defensiveness, and reframed objections as opportunities to clarify and deepen understanding. Her agility in responding won respect and trust. The meeting ended with enthusiastic support and a significant funding commitment. This success reinforced Emily's belief that persuasion was an art requiring empathy, preparation, and presence. Beyond investors, Emily applied these skills internally, persuading stakeholders to embrace change, motivating teams during tough pivots, and building partnerships. She also encouraged her leadership team to develop their persuasive communication, offering workshops and role-playing exercises. On a personal level, Emily reflected on the ethical dimensions of persuasion. Inspired by Elon Musk's transparent ambition and openness about risks, she committed to influencing with integrity and honesty. She understood that true persuasion built lasting relationships grounded in trust rather than manipulation. Emily's journey showed that thinking faster and talking smarter was incomplete without the ability to move people, connecting ideas with heart and action. This chapter marked a turning point where Emily evolved from a communicator and problem solver into a true influencer, capable of shaping outcomes and driving impact. Her story illuminated the path for leaders seeking not only to be heard but to inspire meaningful change in an ever-accelerating world. With persuasion now a vital part of her leadership arsenal, Emily began to explore another dimension critical to thinking faster and talking smarter: adaptability. The business landscape was shifting rapidly, with new technologies, market demands, and competitor moves constantly reshaping the playing field. Emily recognized that the ability to pivot quickly and communicate changes effectively was essential to maintaining momentum and relevance. One early test of this came when a competitor launched a disruptive product that threatened to undercut Emily's company's market share. Instead of reacting with defensiveness or delay, Emily called an emergency strategy session. She encouraged her team to analyze the competitor's strengths and weaknesses openly, without bias. Emily herself modeled openness to change, setting the tone that agility was a strength, not a sign of weakness. The company quickly brainstormed alternative approaches, revising product features and marketing strategies. To communicate these shifts internally and externally, Emily crafted messages that acknowledged the competitive threat honestly but framed the company's response as an exciting evolution. She used clear, confident language that reassured customers and investors while energizing her team. This swift, transparent communication prevented uncertainty from spreading and maintained trust. Over the following months, Emily and her team refined their processes for ongoing adaptability, instituting regular market scans, customer feedback loops, and flexible project management practices. Emily also invested in training to help employees build mindset agility and embrace change with optimism. Reflecting on Elon Musk's career, Emily admired how he navigated constant disruption by staying laser-focused on his mission while remaining willing to pivot tactics. This balance inspired Emily's approach. On a personal level, Emily and Jake talked openly about how adaptability applied to life beyond work, embracing unexpected turns, letting go of rigid expectations, and finding opportunity in uncertainty. This mindset nurtured resilience and creativity in both their professional and personal worlds. This chapter in Emily's story underscored that thinking faster and talking smarter required not just quick responses but a fundamental openness to evolution. Leaders who mastered adaptability communicated not only what was changing but why it mattered, inspiring confidence and engagement. Emily's journey demonstrated that agility was a superpower in a fast-moving world, enabling leaders to turn disruption into advantage and keep their teams aligned and motivated. As she looked ahead, Emily felt empowered by this new lens, ready to embrace whatever changes the future held with courage and clarity. As Emily embraced adaptability, she began to understand that the ability to think faster and talk smarter was deeply linked to mastering one of the most overlooked but powerful skills: storytelling. Stories were not just ways to entertain or inform, they were tools to inspire action, shape culture, and make complex ideas relatable. Inspired by Elon Musk's skill in crafting compelling narratives around space exploration and sustainable energy, Emily set out to hone her storytelling craft to connect more deeply with her audiences. Whether employees, customers, investors, or the media. She started by learning to frame the company's mission not as a list of technical achievements but as a story about solving real problems and improving lives. Instead of talking about features or data alone, Emily wove narratives around the people behind the technology: engineers working late nights, customers whose lives were transformed, and the larger vision driving them all. These stories created emotional resonance and a sense of shared purpose. Emily also practiced telling stories with clear structure, setting the scene, introducing conflict or challenge, showing the journey of overcoming obstacles, and ending with a hopeful resolution or call to action. This approach made presentations more engaging and memorable. In meetings and interviews, Emily used storytelling to simplify complex topics, breaking down jargon and abstract concepts into relatable scenarios. This clarity helped build trust and enthusiasm, as listeners could see themselves as part of the journey. On a personal level, Emily found that storytelling deepened her connection with Jake and friends, helping her articulate hopes, fears, and dreams in ways that invited empathy and support. She also encouraged her team to share their own stories during weekly Spark sessions, fostering a culture of openness and shared learning. Over time, Emily's ability to tell powerful stories became a cornerstone of her leadership style. It helped rally the company through tough times, attract top talent, and differentiate their brand in a crowded market. Reflecting on this chapter, Emily realized that storytelling was more than a communication tool, it was a way to humanize technology and transform ideas into movements. Thinking faster and talking smarter was not just about speed or precision but about touching hearts and minds through narrative. Emily's journey showed that leaders who mastered storytelling could inspire action, build culture, and navigate complexity with clarity and grace. As she prepared for future challenges and opportunities, Emily felt equipped not only to communicate information but to craft stories that would shape the future. With storytelling now an essential part of her leadership style, Emily realized she had reached a point where her voice carried weight well beyond her company. Invitations began pouring in, from universities, conferences, and media platforms, asking her to speak about innovation, resilience, and communication. The transition from entrepreneur to public thought leader brought new challenges. Every word she said was now scrutinized, quoted, and often misinterpreted. Thinking faster and talking smarter was no longer just about clarity or persuasion, it was about presence, influence, and control under pressure. Her first high-profile live interview on national television tested her composure. The interviewer was sharp and probing, asking questions that veered unexpectedly into personal territory and hot-button industry issues. Emily relied on the foundational skills she had developed, pausing briefly to think before speaking, redirecting with grace, and returning to her core message. She remained calm, confident, and authentic. Viewers praised her poise, and her social media following exploded overnight. From that moment on, Emily became more intentional with her public messaging. She built a small team of advisors to help manage public appearances, refine her positioning, and prepare for interviews. Yet she never lost her personal touch, insisting that all her speeches, tweets, and op-eds reflect her real voice. She shared her mistakes as openly as her successes, often talking about sleepless nights, self-doubt, and the pressure of leadership. These moments of vulnerability strengthened her connection with her audience and made her a relatable figure in a world of overly polished executives. Emily also used her platform to amplify voices within her company, highlighting stories from interns, engineers, and frontline staff. This collaborative storytelling made her public presence feel inclusive and authentic. Internally, Emily noticed that as her visibility grew, so did the expectations from her team. People looked to her not just for strategy, but for hope, direction, and emotional steadiness. She leaned on everything she had learned, from conflict resolution to empathy, to stay grounded and accessible. At home, Emily and Jake had honest conversations about the pressure that came with public life. They set boundaries to protect their privacy and carved out quiet moments to stay connected amidst the noise. Emily's reflections often returned to Elon Musk, whose own media appearances oscillated between brilliant insight and controversy. She admired his courage but committed herself to a path of thoughtful boldness, speaking the truth, but with care and intention. This chapter marked Emily's transformation from fast thinker and clear communicator into a leader who could shape conversations on a national and global scale. She had become someone whose words didn't just explain or convince. They inspired. Her story reminded others that public leadership wasn't about perfection, but about purpose. As Emily stood at this new intersection of influence and responsibility, she knew that the next chapter of her journey would demand even more clarity, more courage, and more heart. And she was ready. Emily's rise as a public voice brought with it new responsibilities, and new challenges. As her influence grew, so did scrutiny. One misstep could become a headline. One misunderstood comment could trigger backlash. Emily knew that the stakes had changed. Thinking faster and talking smarter now required strategic foresight and emotional precision. It wasn't just about what she said, it was about what people heard, how they felt, and what they carried forward. The test came during a live Q&A at a global tech summit. An audience member asked a confrontational question about the ethics of AI and whether Emily's company was complicit in automating jobs away from vulnerable communities. The room fell silent. Emily felt the weight of hundreds of eyes and cameras, waiting. In that pause, she didn't panic. She took a breath. Then, she acknowledged the concern without deflecting. "That's a valid fear," she said. "And it's something we think about every day." She told a story, about her own father losing his job to automation when she was a child, and how that memory had fueled her mission to design AI that empowered, not displaced. She then laid out the company's active partnerships with res-killing organizations, transparency initiatives, and long-term human-centric tech goals. By the end, the room was nodding. Some even applauded. That moment became a case study in how to manage public pressure with empathy, honesty, and leadership. It wasn't just the facts she delivered, it was the way she made people feel heard and included in the journey. In the days that followed, Emily reflected deeply on how leaders communicate under fire. She studied how figures like Elon Musk walked the tightrope between bold vision and public controversy. While Musk often leaned into risk and unpredictability, Emily chose a path of grounded authenticity, still bold, but always listening. She developed a framework for her executive team, helping them respond to tough questions with 4 principles: pause, acknowledge, connect, respond. This approach became part of her company's culture, ensuring that communication remained human-centered, even when topics were complex or controversial. Emily also began mentoring other emerging leaders, teaching them how to balance vulnerability and strength, how to stay calm when challenged, and how to turn high-pressure moments into opportunities for deeper connection. Her influence widened, not just through public platforms, but through quiet guidance behind the scenes. Meanwhile, she and Jake grew closer, anchoring each other in what mattered most. They reminded each other to stay humble, laugh often, and never forget why they started. They celebrated quiet wins, a home-cooked meal, a weekend walk, or a night without notifications. As Emily looked ahead, she realized that the true test of thinking faster and talking smarter wasn't how you performed when everything was going smoothly. It was how you showed up when things got hard. When eyes were on you. When answers were unclear. Her story was evolving, and with every step, she chose clarity over cleverness, impact over performance, and empathy over ego. She knew that words mattered, and she was determined to keep using hers to build, not just to impress. As Emily's reputation continued to grow, she began to feel the pull of something deeper, a desire to use her communication skills not just to build her company or manage her public image, but to make a wider, more lasting impact. She had spent years refining how to think faster and talk smarter in the high-stakes world of innovation and leadership, but now she wondered, how could those same skills serve causes greater than her own ambitions? The opportunity came when she was invited to join a multi-sector initiative focused on climate innovation, education reform, and tech equity. It was a coalition of founders, scientists, educators, and policymakers. People who didn't always speak the same language, figuratively or literally. From the very first summit, Emily saw the gaps. Brilliant minds talked past one another, held up in debates more about ego than purpose. Data clashed with ideology, and visionaries struggled to align. It was chaos, but it was also potential. Emily didn't try to dominate the conversation. Instead, she listened, synthesized, reframed, and translated. She asked better questions than most gave answers. Slowly, the room started turning to her when things got stuck. She was able to do what few others could, build a bridge between complexity and clarity. Her ability to communicate across disciplines became her superpower. Drawing again from her Elon Musk playbook, where bold vision is grounded in relentless logic, Emily helped the group craft unified messaging around urgent issues, turning noise into action. She helped researchers present findings in plain English, crafted stories around policy proposals that moved hearts as well as minds, and moderated sessions that led to real decisions. Her impact didn't stop at the conference room. Emily began giving talks in schools and underserved communities, teaching young people how to communicate with confidence. She created toolkits for educators, launched a podcast where she broke down complex social and technological topics, and helped shape legislation around tech transparency. At every turn, she used what she had learned to empower others. In doing so, she felt something shift. This was no longer just about being the fastest thinker in the room or the smartest voice on stage. It was about unlocking the brilliance in others. It was about listening just as fast as speaking. At home, Jake noticed the difference too. Emily was more centered, more fulfilled. Their conversations deepened, not just about business or logistics, but about purpose, legacy, and the kind of world they wanted to help shape. Emily often returned to the idea that thinking faster and talking smarter wasn't just for boardrooms or interviews. It was a life skill. A relationship tool. A form of service. This chapter of her life taught her that clarity was a form of compassion. That speaking simply was not about dumbing things down, but about lifting others up. That silence, well placed, was just as powerful as the perfect words. Emily had spent years learning to lead, to persuade, to present, to pivot. But now, her greatest strength was how she made others feel capable of doing the same. As her influence rippled outward, she saw herself less as the hero of the story, and more as the person handing others the microphone. And in that quiet shift, she found a new kind of power. One rooted not in performance, but in purpose. In the final stretch of her transformation, Emily began reflecting not just on the pace of her growth, but on its direction. She had mastered communication in high-stakes environments, navigated crises with poise, led with vision, and influenced at scale. But as the company matured and her influence spread across industries and causes, a quieter question began to emerge: what does it mean to think fast and speak smart when the world slows down? The answer came during an unexpected pause. After years of non-stop momentum, Emily took her first extended break, a 3-week digital detox in a remote cabin with Jake. No phones. No emails. No news feeds. Just nature, silence, and long conversations. At first, she felt restless. The stillness felt unnatural, even threatening. But slowly, the noise in her mind began to settle, like sediment sinking to the bottom of a glass. And in that stillness, she heard something new, her own voice, unfiltered. She reflected on the journey, from the insecure intern to the global innovator, from speaking to impress to speaking to connect. She thought about the thousands of conversations she had held, the teams she had led, the ideas she had shaped. But she also thought about what she hadn't said enough: I don't know. I need help. Thank you. I love you. In the silence, she realized that the smartest thing she'd ever learned to say was sometimes nothing at all. That communication wasn't about having the right answer, it was about creating space for the truth. Jake, watching her journal by the fire, said something that stuck with her: you've been helping people talk smarter for years. Maybe now it's time to help them listen better. That idea grew. When she returned to work, she didn't come back with a new campaign or big product launch. Instead, she hosted a listening week: no presentations, no reports, just every department sharing stories and feedback, uncensored. She sat with every team. Asked hard questions. Stayed quiet long enough to hear the answers. What emerged wasn't just insight, it was healing, reconnection, and renewal. The experience changed her. From that moment forward, Emily integrated deep listening into everything. She taught it, modeled it, built it into hiring, training, even product development. Her final TED-style talk that year wasn't about disruption or performance, it was about presence. She spoke about the power of pauses, of admitting uncertainty, of making space in conversation. She talked about how the smartest voices were often the quietest in the room. The speech went viral, not because it was loud or clever, but because it was honest. Vulnerable. It reminded people that in a world racing to say more, sometimes the best thing we can do is slow down and say less, better. Emily's evolution had come full circle. She had started by chasing speed and polish, but ended by embracing simplicity and depth. Her journey with Elon Musk's inspiration had led her through innovation, resilience, crisis, influence, and impact. But in the end, the most powerful transformation was within. Emily no longer saw communication as a tool to win, but as a bridge to connect. Not just to others, but to herself. She had learned to think fast when it mattered, and to speak smart when it counted. But more importantly, she had learned when to be still. And in that stillness, she had found her clearest voice yet. It was a crisp autumn morning when Emily stood before a crowd unlike any she had addressed before, not a conference hall, not a boardroom, not a live-streamed summit, but a small auditorium filled with students from across the country, many of whom had never met a CEO, let alone imagined becoming one. This was the culmination of a new initiative she had launched. A national youth leadership program focused on teaching the next generation how to think faster, talk smarter, and lead with empathy. As she looked into the eyes of those students, eager, nervous, bright, Emily felt something she hadn't in a long time. Not pressure. Not responsibility. But peace. She didn't feel like she had to perform. She just had to tell the truth. So she did. She told them about the early days, when she was scared of speaking up. About the long nights questioning whether she was good enough, fast enough, smart enough. About the mistakes that taught her more than the victories. She talked about what she'd learned from watching Elon Musk, that boldness matters, that vision can defy gravity, but that courage isn't just launching rockets, it's showing up with your full self. She shared the framework she'd built across her journey, curiosity to ask better questions. Clarity to make ideas simple. Confidence to speak them out loud. Compassion to make them matter. And then she asked the students a question: what's the one thing that pushes you forward, even when things get tough? A quiet ripple spread across the room. Hands rose. Voices followed. Students spoke about siblings they wanted to make proud. Communities they wanted to uplift. Ideas they'd never dared to say out loud before. Emily listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't correct. She just let the room breathe. And something shifted. For the first time, those students weren't just listening to a leader. They were becoming them. After the session, a girl approached her. Barely 15. Hair pulled back in a shaky ponytail. "I used to think people like you were just born brave," she said. "But now I think, maybe it's something you practice." Emily smiled. Every single day. That moment stayed with her as she walked back to her car. It wasn't the biggest stage she'd been on. It didn't go viral. But it meant everything. Because it was no longer about being impressive. It was about being useful. About passing the torch. Back at her office, the walls were lined with reminders of the journey, photos from early product launches, headlines from the crisis she turned into a turning point, post-it notes with scribbled ideas from her cabin retreat, a framed message from Elon Musk after one of her public talks: "Clarity is the real rocket fuel." And right in the center, a quote she wrote herself, now printed and hung above her desk: "Speak so others rise." It was the principle that had carried her through every chapter. From uncertain beginnings to global influence. From fast talking to deep listening. From solving problems to shaping possibilities. Emily knew the world didn't need more noise. It needed more meaning. More honesty. More voices that lifted, not just led. She had thought faster, talked smarter, and now she had spoken her truth. And taught others to do the same. That was her legacy. Not the company. Not the accolades. But the ripple she created every time she chose to connect instead of impress. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, Emily sat quietly by her window. No script. No slides. Just reflection. Life had surprised her. It had stretched her. And in return, it had shown her that communication wasn't just a skill, it was a gift. One that, when used with purpose, could change not just boardrooms, but lives. As her eyes softened and her shoulders eased, she whispered the final lesson to herself, one last time. Think fast. Talk smart. But always, lead with heart. A year after her final speech at the youth leadership program, Emily sat alone in a quiet cafe near the first apartment she ever rented when her career was just starting. The windows were fogged, the smell of roasted coffee lingered in the air, and outside, the city buzzed softly, just like it used to in those early days when she was unknown, anxious, and full of dreams. She hadn't come back for nostalgia, it was because of a promise. A young girl from last year's leadership cohort, Sophia, age 17, had emailed Emily with a rough concept for an app designed to help underprivileged students build public speaking skills. No pleas, no self-pity, just one line, I believe I can change something. I just need someone to listen. Emily had replied. And today, they were meeting for the first time. But Sophia was running late. And as she waited, Emily found herself thinking about something few people talk about, the power of ordinary people. Not the ones on magazine covers or keynote stages. Just the ones who dare to start a conversation, to stand up for something, to ask the hard question in the right moment. She had once believed that only people like Elon Musk changed the world. But now, years into her journey, she understood that real change often starts with a simple choice, the choice to speak rather than stay silent, to listen instead of argue, to stand in truth instead of convenience. When Sophia finally walked in, bright-eyed, a little nervous, hair tied back in a shaky ponytail, Emily stood up and pulled her into a hug. No cameras. No press. No hashtags. Just two women, one young, one who had once been, sharing something real, belief. They talked for nearly 2 hours. Sophia spoke about knocking on school doors, getting turned away, watching Emily's videos, listening to her podcast, and how even small things she'd said had kept her going. Emily listened quietly, nodding, asking questions that helped Sophia dig deeper. Not to give her the answers, but to hand her the mirror. When they finally stood to leave, Emily didn't hand Sophia a business card. She simply said, when you feel nervous, remember, your story is a gift. And your voice is the key to unlocking the door someone else is afraid to knock on. Sophia smiled, walking away with a steadier stride. Emily watched her go, then turned back to her table and opened the little notebook she always carried. She wrote one simple line, everyone you meet carries a chapter. If you listen closely, you might learn the whole book. Chapter 26 wasn't an ending. It was a reminder, the same skills that help you succeed can help others live better. The lessons you learn aren't just for you, they're meant to be shared. There is no stage too small to teach, and no season of life where you stop learning. Emily didn't need more spotlight or another title. She just needed to know that each conversation, started with care, could become the first step toward real change. And once again, she had started over, not with a keynote, but with a coffee meeting, a quiet pause, and the choice to really listen. 6 months after that quiet meeting with Sophia, Emily found herself standing backstage at a global summit hosted by the United Nations. The theme was Voices That Shape the Future, and among the list of heads of state, scientists, and innovators, Emily had been invited to give the keynote. But this time, something was different. She hadn't come to talk about herself. She was here to introduce a new generation of thinkers, young leaders who were already shaping their communities in extraordinary ways. Sophia was one of them. So were dozens of others, activists, coders, teachers, dreamers. And Emily, once the one searching for a stage, now stood to pass the microphone. As she walked onto the stage, the applause was warm but expectant. The world now knew her name. They expected something powerful. But Emily didn't start with statistics or a story of transformation. She started with a question. What if the most important voice isn't mine, but yours? Then she paused. The silence landed like a pin drop. She continued, what if thinking fast and speaking smart wasn't about having the last word, but asking the first brave question? She gestured toward the side stage, where Sophia and others waited. Today, I'm not here to be the voice of the future. I'm here to listen to it. And with that, she stepped aside. The audience was stunned. And then they leaned in. One by one, these young voices came forward. Some spoke with polish. Others with passion. Some trembled. Others roared. But every single one told the truth. About what they saw. What they feared. What they dreamed. And what they demanded. Emily stood behind them, not as a speaker, but as a steward, making sure they were heard. Afterward, several reporters approached her, puzzled. You gave away your time slot, one said. Don't you think people wanted to hear from you? Emily smiled. They did, she said. And they just did. I'm not here to echo. I'm here to amplify. That moment went viral. But more importantly, it started something. Across the world, educators began integrating public speaking and active listening into curriculums. Companies created silent meetings once a week where junior staff spoke first. Emily's company launched a non-profit arm dedicated to speech education in underserved communities. It wasn't about building more leaders who looked like her. It was about unlocking the leader in anyone willing to speak with courage. Back home, Emily finally finished a book she'd been writing in fragments for years. Not a memoir. Not a business manual. But a guide, for young voices, overlooked voices, quiet voices, to learn how to think with clarity and speak with impact. The title was simple, Say It So It Matters. Jake designed the cover. Sophia wrote the foreword. And Elon Musk himself shared a quote for the back flap. The best thinkers are the ones who teach others to think. Emily is one of them. When the book launched, Emily didn't do a press tour. Instead, she visited high schools, libraries, and community centers. Places where the next leaders were waiting, often unnoticed. In one small-town gymnasium, she read aloud the first page to a group of ninth graders, her voice calm and steady. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to be the fastest. You just have to be real. The world listens when you speak your truth. A boy in the back row raised his hand and said, No one's ever told me that before. Emily closed the book and looked at him. Now someone has. In that moment, she knew, the mission had evolved. Thinking faster and talking smarter had never just been about surviving boardrooms or winning debates. It was about something much bigger, creating space where everyone, everywhere, could speak and be heard. And as she watched those students shuffle out of the gym, chatting and laughing, she smiled to herself. The world didn't need more perfect speakers. It needed more brave ones. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?